Hey guys, welcome back to Gamechangers podcast. My name is Harsh, and today I have with me Jaden, as always, and I guess a local guest today with Shamit Shome. How are you doing, Shamit?
I'm good, man. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic.
Doing pretty good.
Shamit is a professional soccer player. He is currently a professional soccer player for FC Edmonton, and in the past he's played for Ottawa, Montreal Impact, and in the MLS. It's really great having you on, Shamit. I've been following you on social media, and I've seen I guess your name dropped a couple of times on the Canadian national team, things like that, and it's really cool to have you on, especially because I'm a huge soccer fan myself. So yeah, it's awesome. Thanks for coming on.
No, man, I'm happy to be on. I've been keeping tabs on you guys a little bit on social media and seeing what you guys are doing in Edmonton too. So it's pretty cool to see. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, do you hear that, Jaden? We're making waves too,
Yeah. Yo, everyone in Edmonton just has to support each other,
For sure, man.
I'm saying.
Yeah. It's a tight-knit community, so I definitely agree. But I mean, you recently moved to FC Edmonton with all this COVID happening. The biggest question on my mind is, as an athlete, you have to be in top shape, top performing capability. How are you kind of training, and I guess what's changed with the current circumstances right now with COVID?
Yes, I mean, for professional athletes, it's almost all about discipline, and just even if the gyms are closed, even if you can't go to an actual facility to do a workout, you still got to do it to keep yourself accountable, to stay in shape, and to make sure you're not gaining weight and stuff, so that you're ready for the season. So I think that's been the most important thing, is just making sure I'm doing my workouts on my own, whether it's in my basement or going for a run outside, and just keeping that discipline.
Yeah, I'm probably like laying off the Cheetos. Like Cheetos only like 2 nights a week, like not like 7 days a week.
Trying to, man. It's tempting, but trying to.
Is that be honest? I mean, is that a challenge? Because when you're home, right, you're not in that environment. I think the environment makes a big impact when you see your teammates and all those things. When you're kind of accountable to yourself, is it a lot more challenging?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. And I think everybody has, that urge for that craving for junk food, that sweet tooth. And I think all athletes have that same kind of thing as well. So it's just about, managing your portions and making sure you don't go too out of control. For me, it's been a bit harder because I've been living at home now since I came back to Edmonton. So obviously my mom's been like trying to stuff my face with food. So I've been trying to manage that as well.
Awesome. Well, local starboy returns home, huh? It's
yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't know.
I mean, it's definitely probably in the top category for sports athletes that have made it out of Edmonton in soccer, and of course, number one being, I would say, Alphonso Davies, right? I mean,
definitely.
What an impact! Right? Like, that's insane. When I watch him play, it's absolutely magical what he can do. I mean, that goal he had against Barcelona, amazing. Like, just speechless. Like, yeah, I have no words. Like, it's amazing what he can do.
Nah, so cool, man. Just such a big inspiration for, the next generation of guys that are coming out to play. Even for me, he's, inspiring for me, even though he's like 3 years younger than me. But no, it's super cool to see him come from Edmonton, come from where he was to the star that he is now. It's crazy to see him on the world scale of football.
Yeah. And does he have that impact on the training grounds? Because I know you've trained with him in the youth camps that you've had, and of course I know when you are playing at the same level from the same country, you see each other often in provincial games. Like, I guess, does he dominate, like just kind of shine differently on the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, a guy of his talent, you can see him, he stands out above the rest, and you can tell that there's a reason why he plays for Bayern Munich. But what I would say is that as a person, super humble guy, super nice guy. You can tell that the fame hasn't really gone to his head, and he's just still super level-headed and stuff, which is great to see. And it's something that you expect him, coming out of Edmonton, coming from the way he came to the star he is now. It's just cool to see how humble he is.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool, because Edmonton's kind of on the rise, and like to have people like that coming from Edmonton, that's really inspiring, and that really builds more possibility in the city, I think.
Definitely, man. Just putting Edmonton on the map more and more, I guess.
Yeah,
exactly. Shamit, that's a cool fact Jaden just shared with me a little bit earlier. He's saying you have a market value on the transfer market for about $500,000. I mean, I guess, how do you feel when you hear things like that? It's like, this is my net worth. If someone wants to transfer me.
Yeah, they just put $1 on your head.
Yes, I mean, half $1 million isn't bad. I'll take that. That's decent value. I mean, hopefully I can raise that a little bit even more, but it's pretty cool to have, a value on my head, I guess.
Yeah, it is pretty decent value. I guess knowing a little bit about the transfer market, it is pretty decent. I have to give it to you. Like it's either either it's very low, like maybe in like the 100,000s or maybe in like the 50,000s. But like those top athletes, like the benchmark is maybe like 80 to 100 million, right? Mm-hmm. So being $500,000, that's still pretty decent. That's like top prospect. So
and you got a few years to go too.
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, we'll see. Hope I can boost that up even more, but we'll see.
Right. So, I mean, you've just moved from Montreal Impact. Biggest thing on my mind is what's the experience been like working, I guess, being trained under Thierry Henry? I mean, he's a legend, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was a super cool experience to be trained by him in particular, just because, like you said, he's a legend of the game. He's done everything. He's won everything, which is crazy to think. But what I would say is just super good coach. He knows so much for the game. It was just so interesting to learn about the game from him, like tactics wise. And then just aside from that, I'm just seeing him play. Like sometimes he would jump into our training sessions and he was still the best player. His mentality, his everything, his it was really cool. He used to run our gym sessions for us where we do an ab workout or like a leg workout, and he would dominate all of us. And he hasn't even been playing for like a couple of years. So it just shows he's a legend just in every way possible. So super cool experience for me to get coached by him.
Yeah. And what's he like in terms of personality? Because I know there's this little clip of him, and you've probably seen it where he's you know which one I'm talking about, where he even name drops you. He's do you remember what he said? He's like, I forgot what he said.
Too many things. He said too many things, man. All I know is after that video came out, my Instagram popped off just because people started spamming me with all the stuff that he was saying about me. But it was funny. It just goes to show how big of an influence he is, I guess. Yeah. I mean, what I'd say as a coach is he's very demanding. He knows what he wants, and if you don't do what he wants you to do, he'll scream at you for it. But that's something we got used to it, and that's part of football. So
yeah, it's really funny. Like that video just popped off because he just went in on every single player, right? And I think again on you, I think he was saying, he's like, can you play 2-touch? And then he's like, well, why don't you do it? Yeah. I think that's what he said, right? And
I remember the exact moment because he said, "Can you play it 1-touch?" And I was playing. I was in the middle of the game, so I'm trying to focus. And he says that to me on the sideline. I'm right beside him. I'm like, "Yeah, I can." So, and then he's like, "Okay, then why don't you do it?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. I should have." But it was just funny, man. When I look back at that and I look at that video, I'm like, "Wow, it's funny."
Yeah, and then even all your other players. I mean, he's like he seems so aggressive, like as a coach as well. The person, like the drive, it was insane when I watched that video. Like outside of like the Montreal fact, it just blew up. Like it just kind of took over social media for that day.
I mean, you could see like his mentality is he's a winner, and that's why he gets so like passionate during the game. But what I'd say is off the field, it's like a completely different person. It's like he flips off the switch. Super chill guy with the entire team. Throwing jokes around. Making fun of everybody. So it was good vibes. Good vibes off the field. On the field, it's all business.
Great. And I'm sure you must have picked up some tips and tricks from him as well, like with the experience he's had and the insights that some things you just can't learn, right?
Definitely.
That these people can provide to you. But I mean, going from there, when you talk about these icons, these idols, right? And Jade, I'm sorry because I'm dominating this conversation here.
Yeah, no problem.
Soccer is our forte, but
I'm just trying to keep up with you guys and learn a bit. I can learn a lot from this.
Yeah, this is also a learning podcast for Jade, and he's just bystander today.
Jade, I hope you know who Thierry Henry is, man. At least.
Sorry?
I hope you know who Thierry Henry is.
Oh yeah, I know who he is.
Okay. Good. That's a good start. Good start.
I've educated him a little bit. Okay. I've cultured him before you came. I couldn't let that happen. You know what? We have you played under him, and I think the first time I was telling him about it, I was like, man, Shamit has played under Thierry Henry. I'm like, do you know who Thierry Henry is? And he said no, and I was like, okay, give me like 30 minutes. Let me give you the whole rundown of who this man is and what he's done. And it's amazing. But I mean, when you talk about these icons and legends, who is someone for you? I mean, growing up, we all have that one or two favorite player that just just takes our breath away and just inspired us to love the game. Who was that for you?
Yeah, growing up, I used to watch Cesc Fabregas a lot, and that was when he played at Arsenal, like in his prime days. And so that's why I grew up being an Arsenal fan, especially just because I liked Cesc Fabregas as a player. As I got older, I started liking, Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, those types of players, all, box-to-box kind of players. And so those are the three players, I guess I'd say.
Really? Okay, that's a really unique response, because I think most of the people that I guess look for like idols or in the soccer world, it's more like the fancy, like the stars, but these are more like the powerhouses, or like the dark horses of the team that are kind of running the team behind the scenes. They're not really taking much of the limelight, and really, really creative players as well.
No, definitely.
Yeah. And so like soccer, like football, like it's probably like one of the most important sports in the sense like it's played all over the world. Like it's pretty universal. It's the most amount of money in it out of anything. Like if you look like especially like the Euro area, you get to like network with many players even outside of Canadian soccer. Or what's your experience with that?
Yeah, I guess so. I think especially playing in Montreal, you meet so many players that come from all over the world. A lot of guys that come from Europe, big names. So, I mean, last year I was playing with Victor Wanyama, who, 2 years ago played in the Champions League semifinal and started in that for Tottenham Hotspur. So those are kind of guys I played with. Bakary Sagna, like Rod Fanny, all these guys are huge names that, I've gotten a taste to see. Like they've came from Europe and now, playing in MLS. That's what I'd say is the closest connection that I have to Europe, I guess, just playing with those players. But we'll see what happens in the future. You never know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wow, those are actually big names. I wasn't aware. I think I knew about Wanyama, but I didn't know about Bakary Sagna. Yeah, that's actually it's pretty crazy. I mean, like when you're around these peers, like your teammates and all these like I guess world class athletes, what's the pattern that you're noticing in terms of mentality?
I mean, those guys they show up every day and they do their job. And even, when they come from such a higher level in Europe to MLS, and you think, okay, maybe they just, take it easy. They're coming from a higher level, let's say, to, they're getting older too. But they take it just as seriously as they would in Europe. They're the ones that lead the training. They demand the most from everybody. And that's what really helps set the tone, I guess, of the team and the club's culture. So it was really cool to see that with like a guy like Victor Wanyama. He came from such a big club, such a big player. But he trained harder than everybody each day, and he did extra work and all that stuff. So super interesting to see and watch, how those guys work, how they think, and just their mentalities.
Yeah. That actually reminds me. So training, like I played football in high school, so I don't really know how the soccer training is. Do you guys just do like cardio? Do you guys work out your legs, or how do you guys do your training?
Yeah, so it's normally like we normally train in the morning, like on the field. So that's, cardio stuff, ball stuff, just like tactical stuff on the field. And then probably like twice a week, we do like gym sessions in the afternoon. And that's usually a mix of it's usually a full body, like circuit almost, where you do legs, upper body, get all of that. A lot of body weight stuff for like upper body, like push-ups, pull-ups, and a lot of squatting and stuff like that for the legs, box jumps, a lot of explosive stuff. That's how I'd say our training sessions kind of look like.
Yeah. But you guys got to have like good stamina, keep that up, like be healthy and make sure you're fat.
Yeah, that's the thing about soccer, man. It's a lot of cardio, a lot more cardio than I think any other sport. And that's what makes it, I think, like pretty more demanding, is just because you don't get a break for 90 minutes. You just run.
Yeah, like honestly, it seems extremely demanding.
Yeah.
And as a midfielder, as like what like Shamit's position is, I think you're running about 13 to 14 kilometers every 90 minutes of the game. So like it's high demanding. It's the work rate needs to be insane. But I mean, are you more of an attack? Like I feel like based on the players you've named, it seems like you're more box to box, but more like creative midfielder there, rather than like a defensive one or like holding the midfielder.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I still haven't, decided or been able to tell what I am either. But I just like the term box to box because I like to do both. Honestly, I like to do the dirty work and defend and smash into people and win balls. But I also like to do a little bit of offensive stuff, get in the box, score some goals. And I wouldn't really say that I'm better at one or the other, like offensively versus defensively. So I just say box to box is easier, where I can do a bit of both.
Right. Well, I guess someone I like to because for me, right now, I guess you could say the person that I like to model in terms of how I play is Paul Pogba, right? So I'm wondering, like, I guess, from a box to box to someone who I guess calls himself a box to box. What are some tips that, just some straight soccer tips that, basics that, no, I wouldn't say basics, but like important tips that have helped you really cultivate your game?
I think there's just, as a midfielder, as a box to box, it's just like, it's almost like little details because you're not always the star of the show. You're not the one getting all the goals, all the assists, but it's almost just, being that connection in the midfield between the defense and the offense. And I'll say it more specifically, talk like the back line and the offensive line, the back four versus the front three, and just being that connection in between where you're kind of, you do both, where you can help the back four defend. In transition, you can kind of flip the script and then look to play forward to bring in your forwards into the game. That's, I think, the most important thing is, when I get the ball, can I always look forward? Can I always look for my forwards and get the team moving towards the other team's goal versus ours?
Right. Well, you earlier you name dropped being an Arsenal fan, and me being a Premier League fan, I can't miss the opportunity to just take a moment to laugh, because you guys are really, really struggling there in the table.
No, we're coming back. We're starting to do good. We're starting. We lost today too, but we're starting to make our way back up. So we'll be in the top four soon.
Right. Hopefully. I think Europa League would be a more reasonable.
Nah. I watch Champions League right now, so hopefully we can make it. But yeah,
how do you feel about Ozil? How do you feel about, because being an Arsenal fan, how do you feel about Ozil?
Oh man, I love Ozil. I still love him. I remember when we first signed him, it was unreal just seeing like he's so good. He was what we needed. And then something happened. I don't know exactly what happened, where he kind of fell off, or he didn't get his chances, or politics came into play. But I think it's for the better that he left, just because of what was going on. But I still love him as a player. And when I think of Ozil, I think of like, prime, like I think 2012, 2013, 2014, like where he just balled out when he came for us. It was such a good player.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember the day he was signed, and it was on deadline day too. And every Arsenal fan was just, losing their mind. That
so hyped, man. So hyped. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, you should know my team is Manchester United. And talking about Manchester United, what are your thoughts on our midfielder, the star of the show right now, Bruno Fernandes?
Baller. So good, man. He's one of those guys that I like to learn from right now, to see how I can like implement what he does in the game. Obviously he's more offensive, more of a 10. But even as an 8, I can kind of use that still just to see like his movement and stuff like that. Such a good player. So good. And I see people, raising arguments about whether he's a flopper or not, or whether he's actually overrated, but he's so good. And like they played today and he was unreal. Yeah,
that goal today was amazing.
Ooh.
But
yeah,
it's so casual, like so nonchalant. Like it's amazing, like how he does it. What a player. But I mean, going from there, I want to talk about you. Of course, you played in the MLS for a couple of years. Now you're back in FC Edmonton. But where was this? Where was the start for this? Because I really want to know what the journey looks like for someone who is aspiring to be a professional soccer player. And what's that process? Where did it start? What's the beginning? What's the journey looking like?
Yeah, my journey was pretty unique, I'd say. I started playing when I was 5. My parents kind of just threw me into a sport, and it was soccer. And then as I was getting older, some people started telling my dad, like, hey, your kid's pretty good. Like you should, look at putting him to the club level and being a bit more serious about it. So then, as I was getting older and older, I started, playing at a higher level, joining club teams and whatnot. And so honestly, I never really thought about being a professional soccer player from a young age. I just, I like playing soccer, and I just worked as hard as I can because I had fun with it. And I just, I got really good, I guess. So then I think when I was going to grade 11, so I want to say that was like 2013, I joined the FC Edmonton Academy, which is, that's when they opened up, that was a professional team in Edmonton. And so they opened up an academy for everybody to join. And then from there, I guess I really kind of blew up. Even when I joined the FC Edmonton Academy, I was still thinking like, okay, I'm going to go to the academy, and this is going to make me a better player so that I can get a scholarship to go to the University of Alberta, or like go to university and play soccer. Okay, that was my goal. I was like, I just want a full scholarship to go to university, and then I'm chilling. And I guess that's what made me work so hard, I guess. But I guess, it just worked out where I just became really good through the academy, where the first team coaches, Colin Miller, Jeff Paulus, the coaches back then, they offered me a first team contract. And so, I kind of took that opportunity. And from there, I guess the rest is history. I had a good season with FC Edmonton in 2016. After that, I got drafted by the Montreal Impact. So when I look back on it, it kind of, it really all happened super, super fast. But, nothing I would change. So very, very cool experience, I guess, overall.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm curious, what was that feeling like when you did get your first contract, as someone who, I guess, when you're in the sport, right? It's always I feel like it's a surreal moment. I mean, what was that like? And also, how did your life change? Because like, how did the people around you change? How did they treat you differently? What was that feeling like when you did get that first contract?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it was, super cool feeling. I never really thought I'd be in that position. So it was just really cool to, I guess, enjoy the moment with my friends, family. It was unique too, being, a South Asian guy where there's not really any, professional players anywhere. So it's cool to kind of represent in that sense. As for like friends and stuff, growing up, I went to a small junior high, small high school. So I kind of already had a pretty small circle. And it kind of stayed that way. Obviously, I had a lot of people reach out to me, like that, just people that I knew, around Edmonton. But in terms of, the close friends that I had, nothing really changed. And, I was just the same goofball to them, I guess. I don't
know. No tons of girls sliding in your DMs, like,
Oh, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't tell you guys that, but I'll keep that low key.
Right. No. I know, soccer players and all that female attention, they go together hand in hand.
Soccer players and girls, it just matches really good.
Yeah. Like hairstyles,
no comment, man. No comment.
All right, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about your career, like, what was there like a high moment where maybe you scored like a winner, or what's probably like your high moment that you look back to, like, that was a surreal feeling, that was an amazing moment that I had.
Yeah, so I can think of a couple off the top of my head, because there's so many different situations. The first one would be my first start for FC Edmonton. So that was like my first professional game. We ended up losing the game, but it was my first professional game, so something that I'll really remember. I still have that jersey and have it written down as my first game. Another one would be in 2019, my first professional goal in MLS. I don't know if you've seen it. It was the easiest goal I think I've ever scored in my life, from community until now, that just had happened. But super special moment for me. Just scoring my first professional goal. And then the last one I'll say was winning the Canadian Championship with Montreal. And I played both legs in the final against Toronto FC. And I played pretty good that game, those two games. And we won. So that was the first trophy I've ever won, and something I'll remember forever. So those are my big three moments, I guess I'd say.
Wow. So you really earned that. You really earned that trophy too, because I know a lot of people like, oh yeah, I play for the club, but they're really not getting game time, and they're just there for getting the medal on. But credit to them. They still got to where they are. It takes a lot of effort, but you were really involved. I mean, from what it sounds like, you said you played both legs as well.
Yeah, so that's true. I mean, even if you're part of the team, you don't really play, it's still super special because you're part of it. And, even if you're not playing, you're helping and training, you're contributing to the team. But I guess that one felt, even more special to me, just because, I really was playing. I was really involved in it. And so that's what made it even more special, I guess.
Amazing. That's fantastic. I mean, when we're talking about MLS, that's where Alphonso Davies started, right? And I mean, using Alphonso as the bridge when we talk about Canadian soccer, I want to get your thoughts. Where is Canadian soccer headed? What's the future looking like? Because I think Alphonso's just opened up so many doors, and a lot of people are looking up to him, especially youngsters and everybody. I think anybody who is Canadian and has somewhat of an interest in soccer, I think he's just created so many opportunities mentally for a lot of people. What's the future looking like?
No, definitely. I mean, I think, the future Canadian soccer is looking really, really good and really positive. And I'm pretty optimistic that, 2026, by the time 2026 World Cup comes around, we'll be there and we'll be competing, not just, we're not going to be there just to be there, but we're really going to be competing to, make it out of the group stage and hopefully compete in like the semifinals, quarterfinals, stuff like that. And I really do believe we can do that. And obviously a guy like Alphonso Davies is opening up that door where, more Canadian players are getting looked at, even by bigger clubs in Europe, which is great. But then also, with the national team program we have, the head coach that's in there right now, John Herdman, he's done a lot of like really positive stuff the last 3-4 years. So I really think the team overall will be successful, and by the time we get to 2026, and it'll just keep getting better and better. So I'm excited to see what happens, and I'm excited to hopefully be a part of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's super exciting for us because, like, thinking back, I think like 4 or 5 years, I don't know any Canadian men's player who's played in Europe, but now you got Jonathan David, you got Alphonso Davies, and even more that are playing in, the B leagues. So it's amazing, like how much it's growing and the potential for it to grow in the future. And again, that's what getting more traction. even if you look at the US, there's so many players that are coming out with Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, all these amazing players, Serginho Dest playing for Barcelona, all these, North American players that are really playing in these elite clubs for soccer, and it's opening so many opportunities. And I think 2026 could really be the high point where, a lot of people are going to have a lot of opportunities to shine and really put themselves out there. Right. And Definitely. Like you said, hopefully we'll be there to cheer you on. Shamit passes it to Fonzie, and Fonzie scores it for the winner. That's the dream, right?
Yeah, man, we'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah. But, it's really nice to say, but knowing how it's the most popular sport, and when something is so popular, it brings in the same level of competition between individuals, and to make a place in a national team is not an easy feat. And I mean, what's the dedication and what's the mindset required to make it to that level?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to say, but I'll just go back to the same things, where it's, discipline, commitment, and hard work, and you got to have that feeling of wanting to be a part of, obviously, the national team and all that stuff, but also just that feeling in yourself where you want to be the best player you can be, the best person you can be. So I look at it like, regardless of soccer, not soccer, anything you do, you just got to be the best person you can be at that thing. And so that's kind of my motto growing up for soccer is, I didn't know where it was going to take me. I didn't know if I'd be a professional or not, but I was just going to be the best player I could be. And then doors would open up. And, that's what happened with, going to Montreal, playing for FC Edmonton, getting a national team call up and all that stuff. So that's what I say overall. Just, being the best player you can be.
Right. And you also have an engineering degree with Concordia, which is a a surprise fact for anyone listening. You would never guess, but I guess Jaden was saying earlier, I mean, you're not really going to be using that now, huh?
Yeah, not yet, man. I mean, you can't take the brown guy out of me. That's why I had to get a degree. Otherwise my parents would have had a big issue. But I'm not planning on using it yet. Hopefully, maybe in the future when I'm retired, it's something that I could do, and because it's something I enjoy at the same time as soccer. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, how was that? Doing the engineering degree and playing soccer at the same time, like engineering degrees are they're not easy to get. I hear it's stressful. It sucks. Like sometimes you just have nights where you just cry because you have so much homework. It's just hard. That's secondhand. I hear that. Yeah. People say that happens a lot. So yeah, how did you do that? Both of them at the same time?
I mean, I'll say I never cried, thankfully. I was probably close, maybe a couple of times. But no, man, it's hard. You're busy. When I was in Montreal for those first 2 or 3 years, while I was really grinding on that degree, I literally just went to practice. I'd go to school and I'd come home. So I didn't really know many people either there too. So I was just kind of doing my own thing by myself I'd see my teammates at practice, and then after I go to school, I wouldn't really know anybody at school. So I just, put my head down and grind. But eventually you get into a rhythm where you kind of get used to what's going on. So I go train in the morning, go to class in the afternoon, do my homework at school, come back, come home, sleep, and then do the same thing for 3 years. And, looking back on it, it was pretty crazy now that I think about it. But when you're in it and you're committed to doing both of those things and you enjoy doing both of those things, it kind of just, goes by. And obviously there's those difficult moments where, I think I'm gonna have a breakdown and cry from all the workload I'm doing. But I'm glad that I finished, and it's good to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet because, engineering is not one of those easier degrees to do, right? I think when you talk about, and I say this with, I guess I wouldn't say shame, but because I'm a business student, I'm a business graduate. And when I compare the amount of work that we put in compared to engineering students and science students, we're not even close.
Doesn't compare.
It doesn't.
People they look at my workload and they're like, what? No wonder you're walking around stress-free.
Yeah, it's the university experience, I think, for engineering and science students is definitely different from business students. But I have a lot of respect for that, because I think being able to do both things simultaneously, it's not easy, but it requires a lot of grit, honestly, and a lot of hard work. And you're probably quite young then as well. So being in Montreal, doing all those things and putting in so much effort on both aspects, I have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Going from there, I want to talk about for you. What's the future looking like for you? I know you're 24, right?
23.
23. Okay. So, I mean, what's the future looking at? What's the plan? What are you looking for in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say honestly, as a professional soccer player, I'm getting to that age where it's kind of make it or break it in terms of, playing in the big leagues. So I'm really hoping that, this next year in Edmonton, if I do well and I perform well, which is the goal, I'm coming here as, kind of that big player to perform. And I'm kind of putting that on my shoulders is, hopefully I can make the bounce back up to MLS or maybe to Europe to experience it and just see what happens. So that's definitely my goal in the short term in the next 3-4 years, bounce back up to MLS or, go abroad to Europe and test the waters over there and see how it goes. But, if it doesn't work out, I'm super happy with, just playing at Edmonton, doing my thing, helping, the next generation of guys coming up from Edmonton as much as I can. And just playing until I have to retire and then, probably start working or whatnot. That's my plan. But yeah, definitely the goal is in the next couple of years to make that step back up to MLS. Cause I know I'm good enough to be there, and see what happens.
Yeah. And you've already been there and you've already, it's tried and tested. So you know what you're getting into. You've had that experience. So I'm sure you're definitely going to be back there sooner than later. And hopefully we see you play in some of the big leagues. But before we do end the podcast for today, I want to ask, especially someone who is trying to make it as a professional athlete. And I mean, if you say from soccer, from your experience, what advice might you give to them?
Honestly, it's the advice is, the same thing I've been saying for so long. It's kind of cliche, but it's really true. And it's just, be committed to it. If you really want to do it, anything is possible, and you have to be disciplined. You have to be committed. You have to have that, that hardworking mentality where you're really going to show up every day and perform to the best of your abilities. You're not going to, take some days where you're like not feeling good. You're just going to kind of coast through it. You really just got to push yourself to be the best player, best person you can be. And if you start doing that, you'll see that anything's possible. Because I remember when I was 14, for some reason, I just started training that much harder at practice every day. And then for some reason, I just saw myself, I just went like this and I started going upwards and getting a lot better. So that's the advice I'd say, man. I just work as hard as you can every day. And you'll see that, the rewards are start paying off and you start getting better. And as soon as you see that you're starting to get better, just, from a couple of weeks of working that much harder, you'll just skyrocket in terms of potential.
Awesome. Fantastic, man.
Yeah.
You guys heard it here first. This is, Shamit, Aida's athlete, professional soccer player. If he's saying it, then, listen to it. It's definitely, and I can attest to that. It sounds a lot easier to do. I mean, it sounds a lot easier to say than to do, but, it definitely does sound a lot easier to say, but, that's why only the few make it to the top. So, if you really want it, you'll make it and you'll put in the work. But, thanks again for coming on the podcast. It was really great having this conversation, especially me having a lot of interest in the sport. And talking to someone who's already achieved so much, and also with the commonality of the South Asian background, it's really great to see that you're representing our community. It's inspiring for all of us, and hopefully we see you in the 2026 World Cup, cheering you on. I mean, also if you see Fonzie, tell him we're trying to get him on the podcast. Give him a shout from us, huh? Yeah,
I'll try my best. I'll try my best.
If we can get him, I think like Drake follows Alphonso, so it goes Alphonso, Drake,
then Drake,
then who after that,
and then the sky's the limit, man. Oh my
then retirement.
Jaden.
So if anyone knows Drake or Alphonso, like just let us know.
Hook it up, man. Hook it up.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on again. It's really a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully, once I visit Edmonton, if you have the time, we definitely kick it around sometime and play a little five-a-side. And thanks again, and thank you guys for watching. This is our Student Series podcast. Thank you for your support. We're really trying our best to bring you the best content as we can and make more videos to continue inspiring you guys to be your best selves.